Welcome to a special edition of My Travel Window. Today, filmed in collaboration with See the World with Chris and On a Wing and a Hog. Today, we ask 7 questions to see how veteran cruisers think. Stay tuned. I'm Ken, and our channel is called My Travel Window. And the idea is it's the time in life from when you're finally have enough time and money to travel and up until the time that you run out of either money or health to travel. And so we're devoted to that, cruising as well as other forms of travel. Okay, now let's do this. Uh, want to go again, Rob?
Okay, here we go. So, yeah, my name's Rob in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and, and I do have a very small YouTube channel. It's called On a Wing and a Hog. It's has nothing to do with cruising, but it is motorcycle travel related and gear and things like that. I own a Goldwing and a Harley Davidson. So that's one of my passions in life. My second is my family and cruising as well. So we've been on quite a few cruises, maybe not compared to others, but it's just something we love to do whenever we have an opportunity to do so.
Welcome. Okay, Chris.
All right. Well, I'm Chris from See the World with Chris, and I'm out of Birmingham, Alabama. And I've been doing my YouTube channel since about 2009, and I pretty much started it to just be able to share my travel adventures with family and friends, and um, to also help people answer questions about what traveling is about. And so when I travel, I look at YouTube and try to get ideas to plan and research. And so the questions that I have, I try to answer those questions with my videos. um, so I'm mostly about cruising. Done some all inclusives, and just I like your travel window idea there. I've had several family members that wanted to cruise at some point in their life, and they waited too late and they weren't able
Yep.
to. And I've had wanderlust since I was young, and um, I want to travel while I can, as long as I
Right.
want to travel.
Our byline, our subline of ours is if not now, when?
Yep.
Okay, Tammy, welcome.
Hi, I don't have a blog, but I'm a travel lover and I've been
Hey, welcome.
traveling. Thank you. I've been traveling my whole life. I'm from St. Louis, which has always been home base. I traveled a lot on business, and that kind of got me into the personal side of traveling. And I'm late to cruising. I started cruising my first one about 7 years ago, but since then I've gone on 10, and I have 3 more booked in the next 12 months. Back to that window, right?
Yep.
I've gotten advice from a lot of previous retirees that that window is very, very important, and I plan to make the most of it.
Good. Well, welcome.
Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. So we'll start off the list of questions. We have a list of 7 questions. And the first one I've changed from the first time I did this. I asked people how many cruises they had been on. And then people said, well, if I've been on one cruise and it's 30 days long and you've been on, four cruises, but they're 7 days each. So maybe days is a better comparison. So you can do either one you want. But I'm now asking it, how many days have you been on cruising? Tammy, you want to start?
Sure. I've been on probably, I'm just shy of 100 days on Holland, and that's my most preferred line. But
All
I've
right,
been on Carnival a couple times.
great. Chris.
Well,
Go
I've
ahead.
been on 18 cruises, 15 with Carnival, 2 on Virgin, and 1 on Royal Caribbean. And I think I counted up 113 days.
Okay. Okay, Rob.
Yeah, so I had to look it up because we primarily sail with Princess. So on my Princess Captain Circle stats, I've got I just booked my 25th cruise with Princess. And so that adds up to around a little over 150 sea days. And I've sailed on Carnival once. My wife has been on um, Holland America once or twice, and then we did Renaissance cruises back in the early '90s when they were in business for a short while, um, and they were great. And I was sad to see them go, but we did a 14-day Europe cruise with them. So I haven't added all of that up, but it's getting up there as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
Yeah. Well, you take the prize of this group, I think. So, well, for us, we've been on 9 cruises, but one of them was a back-to-back-to-back on Norwegian. We've done I think just over 110 days. And we've done mostly Princess, but we've done Royal, Holland, Norwegian, Celebrity, uh, and Princess. And okay, five different ones altogether. And we're going to try, I may regret this, but we're going to try MSC this year. So we'll see. I'll let you know. Okay, next question. What are your favorite destinations that you've been to? Should we just go around the same circle? Does that work?
Sure.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I misspoke. So let me correct something real quick. It wasn't Carnival, it was Princess. I've only been on 2
okay.
lines, Princess and Holland America. I really do believe that because I love cruising so much that there's no bad destination, and I can't say that I've ever really had one. I do have some preferences though. Hawaii, I've done a lot, mostly because there's a lot of sea days, and
Mhm.
I love that. I found that I truly love sea days. Western Caribbean is always a good choice. But a surprising, really fun one was Central America and through the Panama Canal. I did not expect that to be as spectacular of an event as it was. I do have South America and Antarctica booked this fall, and I have Voyage of the Vikings, which is a top 3 for me as well, booked next summer. So I want to see everything.
Sounds works for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've thought about this, and I would have to say I like St. Thomas, St. Martin, and Roatan would be my top places. Um, just and Grand Turk. Just for I love mountains and the ocean, and St. Martin and St. Thomas has that. Been to Roatan, I love the West Bay Beach there. Beautiful beach, Bananarama, all that whole area. And of course, I get to hug Schloss in Roatan. And then what was the other one I said? St. Martin. That's got the mountains and the beach and all. So I loved the mountains when I was younger, and I love the beaches now that I'm older. I love the beauty of the mountains, but the older you get, the harder it is to go up and down the hills. So put me on flat land with the ocean, and I'm happy.
How about you, Rob?
Yeah, I would have to say it's kind of a toss up between Alaska, which I've done 8 times already. My first cruise was to Alaska, and we went back 3 times right after that because I loved it so much. And then I would say the Mediterranean would probably be my second choice. just because it's just so beautiful, and Malta being one of my favorite ports in the entire Mediterranean. So as far as favorites, I would go anytime, any day to any of those places.
Yeah, yeah, we've been to 9 cruises. We've been to every one of them was different. But I guess I'm with you. My two choices when we first on our first cruise, I asked everybody on the ship because everybody had been on it more than I had. What's your favorite cruise? And I was surprised at how many people said Alaska because I was from Washington State. I mean, that's the only one we could actually drive to a port for. And so we've been to Alaska twice and loved it. But our favorite is the Mediterranean. We've been to the Mediterranean, I think, 3 times now. So that's our choice. I don't know if I could pick a favorite port. Believe it or not, Rhodes is one of my favorites, which is a nice, simple port. It's kind of neat.
Mediterranean is a bucket list for me. I'd love to do a Mediterranean cruise for the culture and the history and the beauty
Yep.
and all of that.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so favorite cruise line and why? I think we've already touched on this a little bit, but go around and explain why.
Holland America is my favorite. I've only sailed two, and there are others I do want to try. MSC is one, and NCL and Viking. I would love to try all three of those. But the reason I like Holland America Line is the party scene is not for me. I'm not going to be sliding down slides. I'm not going to be climbing rock walls. I really don't like the loud drunk people at 2 p.m. I don't mind kids, but I want them to be tended to. And I don't want to go anywhere with more than 3,000 people. And so Holland has the right size ships for me.
Yeah.
Well, I've done
Chris?
Carnival, Royal, and Virgin, and the older I get, I'm finding well, first of all, let me just say that Carnival has been my favorite line of all of them, for the party and the fun, and just and everything. At least when I was younger. As I'm getting older, and I've done a Royal and a couple of Virgins. First of all, Virgin is really nice, in that there's no kids, and you don't realize the impact that kids make on a cruise until you go on a cruise where there's no kids.
Right.
And there's you don't have to worry about the elevator being every button being pushed, being splashed in the pool and all that stuff. So I don't mind it. I love kids, but I think the older I'm getting, I'm kind of settling into a different vibe than I've had before. Absolutely love my cruise on Harmony of the Seas. I think the food and entertainment maybe just a little notch better than Carnival, but I've only been on Royal once and like to go again. And we're actually in 68 days, we're trying MSC Meraviglia,
Oh,
sailing out of New York. So that'll be a first, first MSC and first time sailing out of New York. So it's hard to put a finger on it. Like right now, if I had my choice, I might choose Virgin again because of the food and just the vibe that they have, because they have some excellent entertainment as well. So it's really hard to say right now. I'm changing a little bit.
okay. Rob.
Yeah, I'm in line with Tammy and her thoughts about just not being a party animal. Yeah, when I was young and in the military and all that kind of stuff, that was what we did. But my wife and I, when we go on vacation, we like to go on vacation without drama. And so we don't need the noise, we don't need the technology. We don't want to hear people banging on the walls at 2 a.m. or bumping against the Holly cord or, things like that. So
Right.
that's what I look for when I go on a cruise. It is hard to find ships nowadays that are under 3,000 passengers. They just seem to be growing more and more every year. But I do like the smaller ships if you can find them for that very reason.
So ours, we've done 5 Princess and then one each of several others. And I would say Princess is our favorite. Um, partly there's whatever ship you went on first, you have a love for. And I think, but the last we finally tried Holland America, and I agree too. It was a smaller ship. It was also right after the pandemic. It was to restart. It was in its first month or so. So we were all masked up, and it was a ship of 2,200 capacity, and there were 900 people on board. So, I mean, we had about as many crew as we had passengers. The crew were falling all over themselves to find somebody to help. And I absolutely love the ship. So now I want to go on a Holland ship in quote unquote normal times. So we are planning a trip this fall on Holland, New Statendam, I think. And we're going to try an MSC Seashore is the one we're doing in May. So, but I like them because they're comfortable. They fit me. But one of the things I really like about Holland, Holland has my favorite entertainment, particularly the music walk. I think it's awesome.
It's
So,
wonderful. Yeah.
yeah. Next question. Any lines you avoid and why? And we might have some differences here.
I think you said it best a second ago, in that the first one you've gone on holds a special place in your heart. And that for me was Holland America. And that's why I am loyal to her. I went on Princess because I didn't plan it. I had no intention of going on any other cruise line until I found an itinerary that I couldn't get anywhere else, quite frankly. And it was pandemic. It was June 2022. So still in the pandemic. And it was Alaska, which is one of my favorite destinations for sure. And I just didn't think the service was as good as on Holland. And the food certainly was not. And the varieties of it. I would give it another chance. I would never say no to a cruise. If I was planning it, it will be on Hal. But if I'm not, I would never say no. So I can't say that I'd really avoid any, but I was underwhelmed by Princess. But
Yeah.
I think it was some of that was the times, quite frankly. They deserve another shot.
Chris.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I've been, like I said, I've been on Carnival, Royal, and Virgin, and I would not avoid either one of those. I would go on any, you give me a cruise on any of those 3 right off. I was a little, I guess, biased against MSC because of a lot of the food reviews that I heard, and food is an important part of the experience for me. I mean, I like to eat, and I like good food, and I've just heard a lot of bad bad videos on MSC, but here lately it seems like they've gotten a handle on that, and looks like they've improved it, and the food actually looks pretty good. And several friends have said they really enjoyed it. And so when people review a product, you have to always look at it from both sides, because some people just have different tastes than others. So I'm giving MSC a try, but I guess if there was one that I would say that I would not go on today, it would probably be NCL. And that's because as of late, they've started doing a lot of nickel and diming. At least that's my impression of them from things that I've seen and friends that I have that have gone. So I would say right now NCL's bottom on my priority to cruise with.
Okay. Rob,
Yeah, so I think I forgot to mention, you guys probably picked up on it, but I just booked my 25th cruise on Princess, so I'm a real fan. I've not had a bad experience on them. In fact, and that's been my first cruise to your point. So, I just I guess you go with what you're comfortable with for the most part. But I think my least favorite cruise line, and it's really only based on one experience, and it was with Carnival, and I think the name of the ship was the Splendor, if I can remember correctly. It was a Mexico cruise, and the cabin was great. We had a balcony cabin. It was a beautiful cabin. The food was good, but the ship itself, the lobby, the atrium, all of that was really tacky to me. It was, like silver tinfoil wallpaper, purple and yellow and whatever colors. It was like a blast from the past, from the 60s to me, like the Mod Squad, and I just thought it was gaudy, and I just didn't like the ship overall. So we haven't been back, and maybe we should give that another chance as well, because they do have newer ships now.
for us, we have generally avoided Carnival just because of the party reputation. And we've also, I just have a bias against Costa. We've done some European stuff, and if you look at European stuff, you'll find great prices on Costa. But something about a ship line that had a ship sink is just, I don't know. And I've heard and I've read a lot of the reviews on Costa. It's just not, it's how much time do you have, and that's not some place I want to spend my time. So, any other forms of travel that you combine with cruising?
I've done pre and post, and I've done land destinations, and I've done the vicinities of the port. And I don't mean like in the same city. I mean, sometimes I'll drive or fly to the secondary port destination. But quite frankly, I've done a lot of travels and a lot of forms of travels. And if I book a cruise, for me, the cruise is the destination. And I'm so in love with anything maritime that the ship is part of it. So I don't really, I mean, in Alaska, I've done several land and sea tours because it's just so easy. It's already planned for you. So I do though tend to stick primarily to the cruise.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm the same way. The cruise is the destination. We've driven to the cruise and stayed, the night in hotel a couple of times, before, and most of the times we fly just because, we don't see well, and going to places that we're not familiar with and dealing with the car and all that. I'd rather just hop on a plane, fly to the cruise, stay at a hotel the night before, and cruise. So I would love to do cruise and land package in Alaska. Something like that may be in the future, but pretty much our travel has been to the cruise and home.
Yeah, basically the same thing for us. However, I do like to go at least 3 days prior to the cruise, just to relax and do some things in local areas. Our last cruise was to the UK, and we have friends in England, so I went a week before the cruise and spent some time with them, and then we stayed another week after the cruise. So we were in the UK for quite a while on that trip. Just so I like to kind of combine my own land package, I guess, just my own do your own thing with the cruise itself.
So what started with us, we had done one cruise, maybe two cruises by that time. We had done a New England cruise and a Mexican, Western Mexico cruise. When it was the farthest distance we'd ever gone away from home, you know. And then what happened is my wife decided to join Home Exchange, and we got an offer for somebody to come and do a home exchange in New Zealand. And we said, well, we can't pass that up. We're still working. And then that's when we decided after that trip that we both love to travel, and that's what we want to do when we retire. I had like you, Tammy, I had traveled a little bit when I was working, but you know, for vacations had always been to see family and stuff. And we all of a sudden we decided, hey, this overseas travel, this is pretty good stuff. And so what we try and do now is we try and combine some land trip with it. The next trip that we're taking, we're actually doing an Airbnb for a week in Italy, then a cruise, and then we're doing a home exchange in France. And so combining those together. Okay, one cruise story that stands out.
For me, there's always a nice shore excursion or one that I either plan or that the ship offers. But one of the coolest things I've done, I sailed from Montreal to Boston, and that was spectacular because of the differences in the waterways, right?
Yeah.
But in Nova Scotia, there was a predatory birds excursion, birds of prey. And I went. It was very expensive. And there was a little guy up there who runs his own private little birds of prey sanctuary, and he farms them out. Blueberries are big up there over the blueberry fields. And it was 3.5 hours of dealing with peregrine falcons and hawks. And it was just, and they're landing on my arm, and it was, I'm sending them off, and it was just the coolest thing ever. And I really like exposure to things that I would not even be able to find in St. Louis if I tried.
Chris.
Well, I would have to say one of the things that stands out is our honeymoon. We took a cruise for our honeymoon in 1992 on original Carnival Mardi Gras, and I've always done my own excursions as opposed to taking a cruise line excursion. And so in Nassau, we rented a Jeep. And of course, they drive on the different side of the road than we do over here. And it was quite memorable getting around, Nassau in a Jeep, going through the intersections with no stop signs. And, over there, they just honk, their horn, get you to move out of the way. So that was fun. And then in Freeport, we caught a taxi to, one of the beach resorts, and there's a casino there. And on the way back to the ship, we were getting back to the ship within a couple of hours before, it left, because that was drummed into us, the ship will leave you. And the taxi that we got from the casino back to the ship wouldn't leave until it filled every square inch of seat that it could fill with people going back to the ship. Well, his transmission was slipping. So every time he stopped to let somebody out on the way back to the ship, we prayed that it would get going again. So it was an interesting time, and something that I've never forgotten, and I always make sure I had plenty of time to get back to the ship.
Yeah.
Okay,
So okay, yeah. So the one story that really stands out is a number of years ago, we took our little girl on a cruise. She was probably 6 years old or so. I think it was on the old Sapphire Princess. And we have a really nice photograph of her with one of the junior officers. He was just kind of hugging her, holding her. And not too long ago, I would say around 2016 or so, he was actually the captain of the Ruby Princess. Many years later, he was the captain, and I I downloaded that picture. I had her text it to me. I downloaded it on my phone, and I thought the next time I catch up with him anywhere on the ship, I'm going to show him this picture. And sure enough, I caught up with him at the coffee bar one early morning,
Wow.
and yeah, caught up with him, showed him the picture, and he was just ecstatic with that picture. He was just so amazed. There he was as a young man with this little girl, and now she's 27.
Yeah.
And it just really tickled him, and I was glad I was able to share that with him.
Yeah. Cool. Well, my story has to do with it's one of those don't give up stories. So when we decided we were going to take a Mediterranean cruise, we thought that we probably only would ever have time to do one. And so we booked this really, 2-week Mediterranean trip that was going completely east to west. We were starting in Istanbul and ending in Spain. And Istanbul was one of the major things we wanted to see. This is 2016. So after we booked the cruise, but before it started, they had an attempted coup in Istanbul. And all of a sudden, they changed the itinerary and we had to go out of Athens. And we thought, oh man, we've missed our one chance ever to go to Istanbul. And so then we traveled the country for a couple of years in an RV, and then we decided to cruise again. And so 2019, 3 years later, we're booking the cruise for 2020, and we booked Istanbul. And of course, the whole cruise got canceled. And we booked it again later in the year, got canceled again, went on and on. And so finally, we gave up on 2020 and we moved it to 2021. We were going to do Holland America. We booked Istanbul again. Before the cruise started, it got canceled, but it wasn't for COVID. We don't know what it was canceled for. So it was once canceled for COVID, once canceled for, or 2 or 3 times canceled for COVID, then once canceled for no reason. So finally, we're doing this last year, we did 2022, we did Norwegian, and it made a stop in Istanbul. And so we've now tried it on 3 different cruise lines. And this is at least our 5th try to get there. And we're halfway sailing, we're halfway to Istanbul, and the news comes that there's some kind of terrorist activity near Istanbul. And we went, oh no. But it turns out it actually went off. We went to Istanbul. It turned out to be maybe the best city tour that we've ever been on. And is one of those, don't give up if you want to go to a destination. Okay, so the last thing, what advice would you give to a first-time cruiser?
Well,
Chris?
I would say it's a two-part. A is to verify all your documentation that you need, whether it's passport, whatever you're going to need, visas or whatever. Make sure you ask all the questions and you have all your documents first and foremost. And then secondly, I would say, get into Facebook groups, for your cruise and for your cruise line, and ask the questions that you had, and you'll see questions that you didn't think of, and you can learn a lot and get, prepare yourself for, what you're about to do.
I agree. Rob? What's your advice?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this. Yeah, thinking about this question. Of course, there's a lot of YouTube channels like you guys have, where you have all the advice you can get, and it's great. So it's out there. So the one thing I was thinking of is for new timers or even old timers that have been around, don't be a port runner. You've probably seen those videos.
Yes.
You forget to set your watch to the ship's clock, and you're in port and you're goofing off and having drinks and doing this and doing that. And, if you want some entertainment or you want to be the entertainment, then be the port runner. If you don't want to be the entertainment, don't be the port runner. Don't be running late to your ship, when it's getting ready to leave. So that's my only advice to folks.
Yeah. I think my advice is just like there's multiple of us in this group, and we each have different things that appeal to us. We'd all go on all different kinds of cruises, but there's certain things that you look for, and maybe when you're young and old, it's different. So cruises, they're a chunk of change, and I think everybody can find the cruise that's just right for them. But I think you need to you know if you're a person who's not freewheeling, you probably don't want to go on Virgin. If you're a person who's not into parties, you may not want to go on Carnival. If you're a person who's young, you may not go on Holland America. I mean, there's just and decide what kind of what it is that you want. You want, are you in it for the scenery? Are you in it for are you a ship person? Are you a port person? And that's what I think. So the one question that's left is, what advice would you give for first-time cruisers?
So I read a lot of the blogs. You guys do too, I'm sure, and watch a lot of the you know, other shows that are available to you for you to see. And one of the things that I am constantly surprised by is nitpicking, I would say, because I do believe that the experience you're going to have, whatever it is that you attempt to do, is driven by your attitude. And if you go into something with it's not going to be what I want, or there's going to be a problem, then you're going to find one. And you don't have to look hard to find one frequently. So my advice is always understand what you've bought. Enjoy the moment, because if you're too busy looking at your phone and fighting with Wi-Fi instead of looking out over the ship, you're going to miss something big. And make the ship the experience. I took my friend in the fall on her first cruise, and I knew that that was going to be a sacrifice for me because it was her first cruise, and she wanted to go in every port she wanted. I mean, that's fine, I do that, but I mean, she wanted a formal shore excursion with a start and an end time, and so we did that. But and we had a wonderful time and experienced a lot of things, but I think she missed the big picture, my personal opinion. And she doesn't love cruising, and she doesn't love sea days, and I don't see how that could ever be the case. So I want people to focus on the experience on the ship as part of the destination, right? It's the destination. And so that's the advice that I would give, and to have an open mind. And the only thing I would add in closing, real quick, Ken, if you can give me a second,
Sure.
is
Yeah.
I found it difficult to answer the questions, not because they're the wrong questions, or not because they weren't worded appropriately, or not because I didn't have an answer, but because I had so many answers.
Yeah.
And I think probably everyone feels the same way. But
Right.
our world is a wonderful place. And one constant that I always run into on all of my travels is the wonderfulness of the people. And for sure you meet jerks. That's just
Right.
gonna happen, but that's few and far between.
I
And
think on
so
every, yeah, excuse me.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and so for people to not be wayward and wandering and not have the fever, whether it's cruising or not, some other form of travel, I just don't understand it, because our world has so many fantastic things and people to see.
I agree. Every cruise that we've been on, we've found at least one other person or couple that we have bonded with and followed up something after that cruise. Whether it's we're Facebook friends with people we went on a Mexican trip with in 2009. And and it's marvelous. And it's wonderful interacting with locals where you go too.
Yes, it is.
That's a neat
And
thing.
and one more thing I'll add, which is a unique perspective. I travel a lot in small groups. I travel a lot with two, like my bestie or family
Mhm.
members. My sisters and I travel a lot. But I travel solo a lot too.
Mhm.
And I find that if you just make good choices and trust your gut, there's really nothing to fear. And I really have not run into any extremely dangerous circumstances or even dangerous circumstances that I'm sorry that I chose to do. And
Yeah.
I think it's because I just make good choices.
Yeah.
Well,
Well
Tammy,
said.
I think you hit the nail on the head on the multiple answers to the questions that we could have given. There's just so much to unwrap
Right.
and everything. How do you put it all out there in the short amount of time? And another thing is that we found the same experience in meeting with friends that we've met on cruises and in the cruise community, having a YouTube channel, and we've gotten to meet a lot of YouTube creators um, over the last few years with COVID, putting everything down. And we've done some all inclusives in Mexico because we couldn't cruise. And it's like family. And I think that that goes along with just any specialty area, whether it be cruising or Rob, I know you like motorcycles. I've
Mhm.
done a lot of motorcycles. I've got a Suzuki V-Strom 650 and a Kawasaki Concours. And I've ridden to St. Louis and to Deals Gap, and just all over the southeast. And when you meet with a group of like-minded people, um, whether it's cruising or motorcycling or whatever your hobby is, a lot of the drama is not there. I mean, yeah, there's drama at times, but you're all bonded by the same love of traveling or cruising or whatever it is. So it's just something special in that.
Right. When you're traveling and you meet someone on a ship, you can usually tell within the first few minutes of the conversation whether they get it in terms of travel. They either uh they're either thrilled by it or they wish they were somewhere else. For us it's a great. I consider myself very fortunate that I have a wife who likes to travel as much as I do. That's a
Same.
nice
Yep.
thing. That's not necessarily true, but I think it's rare actually. So
Yeah,
but
I was on a ship in January, going out to Hawaii and back, and I did a back to back, which you guys have probably experienced as well. And the first cruise was a Mexican Riviera, 7 days, San Diego down to Puerto Vallarta and back. And then some folks got on, some folks got off, and then we went out to from San Diego out to Hawaii and back. And I heard someone say that was standing in the vicinity of me after we left San Diego the second time, to go out to Hawaii and back for a 21 day. And she goes, well, I've noticed a different tone on the ship. The partiers have gotten off and all the real cruisers are here now. And
yes,
that's been one of my favorite statements, and it will always be.
yeah, yeah. We did our Norwegian was back to back to back. So from Israel to Rome, 30% of the people on the ship were Jewish, and you heard lots of Hebrew on the ship. Then they all got off in Rome, and the people who got on in Rome were mostly Europeans, And so from Rome to Lisbon, it was mostly a European cruise ship. And then most of them got off, and what got on in Lisbon to go to New York City, the transatlantic, was all Brits and Americans. And so it was the same ship, but it was three entirely different cruises.
Yeah.
It had a very different feel to it.
Yep, yep.
So
Every
I like
cruise
them
is
all.
different.
every cruise is different. They're all
Yep.
good.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
all righty. Well, thank you all.
Yeah, I've
And
enjoyed
if you
this.
think of anything else, let me know. By the way, how I came up with the questions to do this in the beginning, when we were going to go RVing, we had never RV'd in our life, and we were going to live full time for 2 years in an RV. And so we took a class, an online class, and they gave us all, here's how 12-volt system, all the RV stuff. And then at the end of the class, what they did was had interviews with full-time RVers. I got more out of those interviews than I got out of the class itself.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted to do something like this, because I think you get something about experience makes a difference.